Hey everybody, welcome to part 8 in our series on making a custom ribbon in Microsoft Access. In this video we're going to talk about images again, except this time instead of storing our images in our file system and retrieving them from there using the load picture method, we're going to store our images in a table in an attachment column. Then we're going to use a hidden form to retrieve our images and move them to our ribbon. This is an approach that has been out there on the internet, and I found it on Microsoft's website on version 2007. So this is an approach that I guess you'd say is supported by Microsoft. I have tried everything I can think of to be able to move these images straight from the attachment column into an image object and be able to load that onto the ribbon, and have not been successful. So let's take a look at the table that we've built. I have a table called images. In there I've got 3 columns: a record ID, which is nothing more than an auto number column, just to make sure that we're staying unique, and that's our primary key. I have a text column here that I've called image ID, and it's going to hold the name of the control ID from our ribbon. So right now I have 3 rows in here. We're only going to be using this 4th row. That's all that I've got wired up to the ribbon. These other 2 are here just for examples and just to give us some volume. The 3rd column here is the attachment column, and this is going to hold our actual image that we want to display on our ribbon. I just want to explain this attachment column just a little bit more. So here is a representation of the table that we just looked at. Okay, we have our 3 rows, and our bottom row here is our app icon row, if you will, or the image for our app icon button. And we'll see here this number in parentheses indicates that we have 1 file saved in this attachment column. Okay, this is a multi-valued column, so we're allowed to store more than 1 item in an attachment column. And the way that looks, what you end up with is inside this column you end up with another table, if you will, or another record set, and it has 3 columns itself and can have multiple rows. The first column you have in there is called file data, and it holds the binary data of whatever file you've put in there. In our case, it's our app icon image. The second column is file name. It's the actual file name of whatever file you loaded in there, not the full path. It's just the last part of the name. Okay, the file name itself and the extension. In our case, this image I had called InfoCircle32 bitmap before it got loaded up here. And the last column is the file type. It holds a file extension. In this case, it's a bitmap. Now, if we had added more images to this row in this column here, we would have additional rows down here. So the code that I'm using has an assumption built into it. So we've turned it into a rule for how we're going to handle our images in this table. And the assumption is, there's 2 assumptions. One is that this image ID column up here is going to hold the control ID of whatever button that we're trying to get the image for. And the second assumption is, in this attachment column, we're only going to store 1 image. And it is an image, it's not some other document. Okay, so we're not going to test for other documents. We're just going to only load images to this table. And we're only going to load 1 per row, because the code that we've written is only going to grab the first row from this attachment column. Okay, so that's the table that's holding our data. Now we need to build a form that we can interact with through our VBA. Since we don't care a whole lot about how this form looks, we're going to let Access do it for us. So we're going to click on the images table, and we're going to hit the Create tab and hit the Form button, and boom, it's popped up a form for us here in Layout View. What we have here is, of course, a control for each column. What it has built for us here on our image file column, our attachment column, is an attachment control. It's a control that's built specifically to deal with attachment columns. I'm going to modify just a little bit. I'm going to modify the name. I'm going to take file off the end of the name, and I'm going to add ATT to the beginning of the name. So our control from our form is going to be called @image, and I'm going to change the picture size mode from zoom to clip, just so that what it'll show us here now is the original size of the image instead of zooming it out, and that's just an aesthetics thing that's bothering me here. The next thing we need to do, we need to save this form. We're going to call it form FRM images. I'm going to pull it up in design view. One more thing we have to do here to this. I need to make a reference to this form in the VBA, so I need it to have a code module. If it doesn't have a code module, it won't show up in our VBA and won't be able to compile. All right, so now we've built a code module for it just by clicking on the View Code button. We'll get rid of our code again, and let's save it and take a look at what it really looks like when we're using it. So there's our first row, there's our second row, there's our third row. This is the button we're going to be going for, app icon. When we click on this control, we get a little extra menu that shows up here. If we had multiple files in this particular column, we would be able to move through them using these buttons. Now we only have one, so we're not moving anywhere. If you hit the paperclip button, it gives you another pop-up that allows you to manage these attachments. You can add, you can remove, you can actually pull them out of here and save them to your file system if you want to. And we're not doing any of that, okay? We've already got our images loaded in here. And again, like I said, I don't care a whole lot what this thing looks like because we're going to open it in hidden mode so our users never see it. So I'm going to close this now. Let's take a quick look at the XML that's involved here just so we can remind ourselves. I've not changed any of this XML from the previous videos that we had. We are going to be working with our first button here. That is this guy right here. And that is up here on the left-hand corner. That guy right there. So we're on our Home tab, inside the first group, and it's this button right here, button ID, called App Icon. We already have the GetImage attribute pointing to a VBA method called GetImageCallback. All we're going to do now is change the code. Actually, I've already changed the code in the GetImageCallback. We're going to look at what I changed it to right now. Let's pull up our code window. Alright, so here's our GetImageCallback VBA method. Completely changed it. What we used to have was using the load. We were finding the path to where we had stored our images, and we were using the load picture method to pull it up. And in fact, let's take a look at that really fast down here. I have a getErrorImage method down here. That is in case we can't find the image we're looking for in our table. We have a backup plan here. We're going to store a little red circle hand in our DB images folder, which is inside the folder where our database resides. So when we have a problem finding our image from our table above, we're going to come down here to this guy and set our path equal to the path of our current database, add this DB images subfolder to the end of it, and then we're going to, like we did in our previous videos, use the load picture method, feed it that entire string for the file name, and load it and return it as an iPictureDisp, and return it to the calling method. And this iPictureDisp is the format of the image that the ribbon wants to see it in. So up here in GetImageCallback, I've got two static variables up here, and I forget about these static variables. They're really like global variables. We could just as easily put these up here at the top of our module and call them global variables. I left it like this because it gets it all in the same screenshot here. A static variable is a variable that holds its value even after the method that created it has gone out of scope. So this form image and this record set form, they're going to stick around even after GetImageCallback has executed. So the first thing we want to do is check to see if our hidden form is already existing. Is this the first time we're calling GetImageCallback, or is it some subsequent time? If it's the first time we're calling it, the form will not have been opened yet. Form image will be nothing, and then we will want to open the form using the do command open form method. Give it the name form images. To act normal is the type of window. We have a couple parameters here. We're going to take the defaults on, and then to hide it, we will use the there we go, the window mode as act hidden. That way nobody will see it. After we open it, we want to get a reference to it. We're going to set form image equal to the form we just opened. So now we have a reference to it, and the next time we call GetImageCallback, form image should still exist. Next, we want to get a reference for our VBA to the record set for the image. Okay, that's rs form image.recordset. So next time we execute GetImageCallback, we shouldn't have to go into this if. These two objects should already exist. The next is pretty easy. Next, we want to search through the record set for this form, looking for the image ID that's being passed in from the control. And next, we want to find the row in our table that has the button image we're looking for. So we head back over here to our table. There's our ribbon. Head to our table. Remember, we have this image ID column that holds the name of the control ID we're going to be looking for. In this case, app icon is the only one that's going to correspond to an image, or excuse me, to a button on our ribbon. But it's the image ID column that holds that name. So we're going to use the record set find first method, image ID equals, and give it the control ID that's been passed in to this method. Remember, when these callbacks usually send in the control that invoked it, so we can get to the control ID via that method. Then we want to test and see if we got a hit. RS form no match means we didn't find the row we're looking for, and that's when we're going to call our getErrorImage method that we just discussed first. It's a function. It returns an iPictureDisp. It loads into image, which is this guy right here, which goes back to the ribbon. Now, if we did get a match, we go to the else down here, and we're going to set our image equal to our form image. That's our hidden form. At image was the attachment control holding the images, and then the PictureDisp method that returns an iPictureDisp from that control. Loads an image, goes over here, and then goes back to our ribbon. Let's take a look over here at our home button, our home tab rather, and you can see that we've got our app icon, that info circle there. So let's just, for the sake of making sure this is all working right, let's change the name of this image ID in our table. So the next time we come in here, it can't find a hit. Now notice, right now, I'm leaving the tab, coming back. We've already gotten that image. We haven't invalidated this button, so there's no reason for it to call the GetImageCallback anymore. It's already gotten the image and loaded it to the ribbon. It's not going to bother unless we invalidate it. Now, I don't have any invalidation code in here, so we're going to close the database and save and reopen it so that it'll all be invalidated. Alright, so we head over to our home tab, and there you can see we've got our circle hand instead of the blue I button that we were expecting. And the reason is, we go to our table here, we can see that we changed app icon to app icon X. Therefore, our control ID of app icon cannot be found in this table. So we're going to go over to our error condition in our VBA code and get the circle hand from our file system instead. We went into here, rsForm.noMatch was true, and we executed getImageError down here and pulled our circle hand from our file system. Now, Microsoft does have another method that they offer in this same article, and that involves storing all of your images on one row in that attachment control. I don't like that one as much as this one, because what I like about this one is our outer table. Our outer table, we can control these names in this image ID column and change them at will. When you've got them all stored in one row in that attachment column, it's harder to get at them, and just, I mean, it's not terribly hard, but it's just a few more steps you have to go through to make changes. I like this one because it just seems like it's all a little more open and all out there for you to see. So that's it for this method. There's a couple moving parts, but not very much code. It's fairly straightforward code at that. As usual, I have a link to my blog with the code listing, the XML and the VBA, down in the description below. I'll also put a link to that article from Microsoft's website on there as well. Hope you got something out of this video and enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time.